Hi there, my name's Mark Fairley and welcome to my very first vlog. I'm a writer, author, YouTuber, video producer, never really know how to describe myself, but essentially I write books and I turn them into videos and I post them right here on YouTube. And I've been doing that for about 13 or 14 years full time. If you don't know the channel, it's called The Fuel Project. I'll link it down below and I highly recommend that you check that out if you haven't already. But if you have seen it, then you'll know that this is kind of my natural environment. This is where I spend a lot of time because this is my office/studio space and it's where I do everything pertaining to the Fuel Project, whether that be reading, writing, researching, recording, editing, admin, emails, it all happens in this one space. And I've got to say that I absolutely love it. I love that I get to do this and I get to commit my life to something which I feel is so meaningful, and I've never lost sight of how thankful I am to be able to do something like this. It's such a blessing and I love it so much. However, there is one downside, and the downside is I do spend a lot of time in this one room. And for that reason, about once or twice a week, I've got into the habit of packing myself up, getting into the car, and going out into the countryside of Scotland where I live. Now, Scotland is a very beautiful country. That's another blessing. It's full of mountains and rivers and lochs and forests and beaches. It's got lots of castles, it's got stories, it's got history, and it's quite a small country as well, so you don't need to go very far before you're bumping into some other interesting nook or cranny. And so I've just got into the habit of doing this. It's good for my well-being, for my soul, it's good for mental health, I guess is the word these days. And I just love to be surrounded by nature, by creation, by natural beauty. It's just so good for the soul. And so I thought, well, you're going to do that anyway, and I have been doing that anyway for the past few years. Why don't you start vlogging it? Because maybe some other people out there might like to come along with you. Maybe people that have never been to Scotland or who are intrigued about Scotland, they might be interested in seeing some of the places that you go to every week. So why don't you start vlogging it? There's actually a few other reasons why I've started vlogging, or why I'd like to start vlogging. And if this turns into something, and I don't expect it to be honest, I'm expecting this to be a bit rubbish because it's my first vlog and I don't think it's going to be very good, but hopefully there'll be just one or two seeds, something to cling on to tell me this is worth persisting with. And if it does, then I'll explain a bit more about why I've decided to start vlogging. But anyway, without any further ado, we're going to go to Ballochbuie Forest today in the Cairngorms, which is one of my favourite forests. I actually recorded this a few days ago. So on Christmas Eve, I recorded this. This is now a few days later. And I just thought I better do an introduction and explain who I am and why I'm doing this. So yeah, without any further ado, there's one thing we have to do before we get started actually. We need to go and pick up a couple of very important co-adventurers who, if you follow this vlog in coming weeks, they're very important to the whole thing. My co-adventurers, they're called Ollie and Rafa. And let's go pick them up and get started.
This is Ollie, and this is Rafa. Okay, we've just arrived at Ballochbuie Forest. It's a little bit busier than what I was hoping. There's a few cars in the car park. Often in places like this, you get them all to yourself, but I guess because it's Christmas Eve, a lot of people have decided to come out. They've got the day off. So hopefully it's not too busy. And anyway, let's get cracking.
So we're just making our way towards the Invercalled Bridge here, which was built in the mid-1700s. This is the first point of interest. It's a very old bridge. And it was built because in the aftermath of the Jacobite Rebellion in 1745, the British government felt that they needed to build this network of military roads across Scotland to connect the various garrisons and castles so they could keep an eye on those pesky rebels and make sure that they didn't rebel again. So that's what this bridge was built for. It was part of the old military road network built by General Wade back in the 1700s, and that's what this sign is basically explaining. So yeah, that's the first interesting thing on this trip.
Okay, here we are in Ballochbuie Forest. We've crossed the bridge and we're in Ballochbuie, which is ancient woodland. And I don't have a lot of facts about Ballochbuie, and the facts I do have are probably wrong. But as far as I understand it, this woodland was actually going to be cut down at one point, maybe about 100 and some years ago. And the reason it wasn't is because Queen Victoria stepped in. She intervened and bought the land, because Balmoral Castle is just over the hill there, and so it was preserved for her, and they own this land. So we have Queen Victoria to thank for the fact that this even still exists. I've just found something that I've never seen before. It's a little plaque in the ground that says James Bowman was found here on September the 9th, 1885, having been entangled in the fence for 19 hours. After removal to his home, he survived only a short time. I've never heard of that before. I'll need to find out who this James Bowman is when I go back. Imagine being entangled in a fence for 19 hours. Although it doesn't seem like it's long enough to kill somebody, because you couldn't die of starvation in that time. And you wouldn't die of thirst in that time either, so I guess it was exposure. It's not a good way to go anyway, 19 hours entangled in a fence, but it just kind of goes to show how remote this place is. The fact that he was there for 19 hours and nobody passed. But that's why I love it. I love the remoteness. I love the fact that there's nobody else here. I've actually met a few people on the way, but that's because it's Christmas Eve. And I think more and more people are getting to know about this place. But yeah, that was just an interesting thing. And I'll need to check out James Bowman, was it, or John Bowman? I'll need to check him out when I get back home and see what that story was.
Here is another point of interest. So as I understand it, and again I could be wrong, but as I understand it, Queen Victoria had this bridge built when she bought the estate, and the reason for it is, you'll notice it doesn't actually lead anywhere, and it's called the Bridge to Nowhere. I don't know if she called it that or if it's just known as that locally, but it doesn't go anywhere. If you go over to the other side, it doesn't lead to any path. The reason that she had it built was she liked to sit up here and paint. She would look down there at the landscape, the scenery, and she would paint, and it was a source of inspiration for her. But yeah, as you'll see, as we get to the other side of it, it just goes into heather, and there's not actually, it doesn't continue. So yeah, it's got a bit of a Narnia feel to it, especially when it's snowing, and unfortunately it wasn't snowing. It should have been, because it was Christmas Eve when I was there. And when it's snowing, it's got a bit of a Narnia feel to it. So maybe I'll come back next year and you can see it when it's all covered in snow, hopefully.
I just had a super scary moment there. When I put the drone up for that last shot, it didn't have satellite lock on it. So it started drifting off to the side, as you probably saw just there. And it only had about 20% battery left, and it's heavy wind right now, and it just started drifting off, and I thought I was going to lose it, because I actually did lose a drone that way. A few years ago when I was doing the North Coast 500, I lost a drone because I put it up over the brow of a hill and I didn't realise how windy it was, and it just floated off, and I thought the same thing was going to happen again on Christmas Eve of all times. But thankfully I managed to get it down low enough to just above the tree line where it wasn't as windy, and with only 20% battery left, with only 5 minutes of flying time left, if not less, I just managed to get it back in just in time. Whew. Okay, I won't be taking a risk like that again. On to the next thing. So I've got to say, I am roasting right now. I can't believe how warm it is. I did indeed take the wrong jacket. I should have taken something lighter. So warm up here today.
The next and final point of interest on our tour is the Honka hut, which you can just see there. And it was a gift from the Finnish people, I believe, to the royal family, especially to Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip on the occasion of their silver wedding anniversary. It became a favourite place for them to picnic, I believe. They really loved to come up here and to sit, especially on that porch. This is me just trying to peek inside, and sometimes you can peek inside, but I think they had shutters up. It was really dark. But there is a kitchen in there and a room, and there's a shower on the right. And that bench is where they liked to sit. So here's Queen Elizabeth with, I think that's a family member. There's Prince Philip, and it's also unfortunately seen some pretty notorious individuals, as you can see here. And but now it's seen me and Ollie and Rafa as well. And you can see why they loved it so much though, the royal family, and why they love to picnic here, because it's such a beautiful outlook. And in fact, I think it's so beautiful that it's worthy of an epic drone shot. So let's hit the music.
Okay, we're just heading back towards the bridge, which means that we've nearly completed the circuit. I think we're about 10 minutes away. I think that's all the points of interest. I can't think of anything else. But I was going to say that's the end of all the beautiful things, but it's all beautiful around here. It's all stunning everywhere you look. And I love the fact there's snow on the hills. There should be more, but I love the fact there's some at least, because it just adds a bit of extra atmosphere at this time of year. So yeah. I hope you can see why the royal family were so keen to preserve it and why Queen Victoria bought it, and I'm glad she did, because it's a lovely place and it's one of my favourite forests. It's one of my favourite places to come. So yeah, I'm just going to head back now. I've got a Christmas Eve lunch to go to, a family lunch, so I'm going to go enjoy that. And unless I see something else beautiful along the way, I mean, especially beautiful, like a point of interest, maybe a sunset. I hope there's a sunset tonight. Then that will be the end of the vlog. How do you wrap up a vlog anyway? I don't know. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'm not expecting much from this vlog because it's my first one. I'm not expecting it to be very good. But if you enjoyed it, if you want me to make more, then please let me know down in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And if it's turned out okay, I'm not expecting much, but if it's turned out okay, then I'll consider doing another one and making this a regular thing every time I go out to various places around Scotland. So yeah, I'm gonna head now. So thank you for joining me, and I'll hopefully see you again in the next one.